Hi, so we've now reached the Hermit card, card number 9 of the Major Arcana, and for me it has a very strong resemblance to one of the earlier cards, the High Priestess. So if I just bring up the Rider-Waite version of this card, and for me this card is really about withdrawing from the world, looking internally for answers within, and that's very strongly connected to what the High Priestess card is. Now, if we just look at the actual card itself, and there is some school of thought, and I personally agree with it, that the Hermit card is actually the Fool after he's grown older and wiser, and the Lantern is a representation of the past experiences, and he's using this lantern or these past experiences to guide him forward. Now, withdrawing from the world again and looking internally, as I've mentioned, is pretty much what the earlier card, the High Priestess, is. But this time it's going to be a very different process. It comes from a place of much higher frequency and much more experience and knowledge now. And I think I've mentioned before, but all of the journey of the Major Arcana, it does follow a cycle that does repeat quite often, and it's often either outward force or inward attention. So if we think back to the previous two cards, the Chariot and Strength, they are really about the external, whereas now we're moving back into a period for self-reflection. And I wouldn't say that this period has to be permanent, certainly not permanent, or even for a particularly long time. But for anyone that reaches this point, if you don't completely cut the outside world out at this point, and I mean that energetically, you won't be able to go any further than this point. You have to turn that energy inwards, and you have to take the concentration away from the outside world. And I always associate this card in this period with when you are starting something like the Abramelin ritual or any of the HGA rituals and work. That's a period where you really do have to turn inwards. It's very time consuming. You can't allow the external to dominate or take your energy away, because you have to concentrate on this work. And I always associate this kind of experience as well with, just going back, 3-4 years now, the COVID lockdowns, when we were all shut away. And a lot of people completely collapsed during this period. And a lot of people really thrived as well. And those people that were able to actually turn their attention internally to just focus on the inside, the self, really flew through it and yeah, like I say, really thrived during that period. And I think a lot of the people that really struggled, and it was very educational for me, the first lockdown, because I did struggle at first. That need for constant communication, connection, that fear of just being alone with your own thoughts, your own inner work that you need to do. A lot of people couldn't and still can't do that. But I see it as something that's absolutely essential to everyone's journey, particularly within magic, but just in life in general. So that was the Hermit card, and As I always say, if you could please subscribe and like, that would be very much appreciated. And I will see you next time when we'll move on to card number 10 of the Major Arcana.